Welcome to Engedrian. If this is your first time listening, or even if you are returning, be sure to follow us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for additional content, battle maps, and background details. We hope you are enjoying our adventure. Let's see what happens next. With the meat sold and the rooms secure at the inn, the group has a meal together, discussing the last several days.
I must sincerely apologize to all of you about the troubles we had on the road, especially to you, Peace and NSL. I am of a mind to make all of you stay here, safe, while I continue. The constable warned me, but I must admit, what he described seemed much less worrisome than what we experienced.
Umgern has his hands laid open on the table in a gesture of apology.
Well, I would like to point out that we made an enemy in Woodshead who, in fact, is a druid. Do you think she could have convinced those creatures to attack us?
Fodinus frowns. NSL perks up and places one claw on her chin.
It is certainly within her power to change her form. She cannot change into an owlbear, as the magic doesn't work that way. But she can likely charm and speak with animals. I think she could have influenced them, but that doesn't explain the spiders, which I think were after the Kruthic.
Umgern nods.
The Kruthic, yes. Let me tell you a bit about the Underdark. It is a world beneath your surface world where my people come from, the Drow. My home city, in fact, is below the wilds of Pithilius, north of Woodshead. The Drow are mostly not like me. We are a self-sufficient people with customs and habits you would not understand, but it has always been the burden of my people to wait.
He sighs deeply and pauses for a long moment.
To wait for a surface people with whom we could be allies. I was taught this since I was very young, but then I saw the truth of it. They weren't waiting for allies of peace or prosperity. They were waiting for allies to gain control and power. The Underdark cities are all over Engedrian and connected through extensive systems of caves, tunnels, and passages. Although it is a many moon turns journey, you can go to almost any land in Engedrian through the Underdark, as I understand it. But to the Kruthic, there are many creatures of the Underdark who do not come to the surface. We keep some of them as pets or guards. They would be frightening to you, and some of them you might call horrors. But, like the Drow, the light is often too much for us, so they stay in the darkness below. Kruthic would not venture to the surface, especially with immature ones, unless there was something very, very wrong.
Like, what kind of wrong?
Peace sips a hot tea they made for the group after dinner from herbs NSL and they collected. When they give Case his tea, they pat him on the shoulder gently.
If they were desperate for food, if they were being chased by something...
Umgern trails off in thought.
But you said these creatures were frightening horrors. What scares that?
Peace sips more tea, staring intently.
There are levels to the Underdark. There are creatures from the far depths that sleep for centuries. There can also be, of course, intrusions of creatures from above.
He seems lost in his thoughts, as if searching for a memory. Peace sits down their empty mug.
The creature we saw being dragged by the spiders, that must have been a baby Kruthic, as Case described it. It was not very large. If we assume something frightened the Kruthic to the surface, and they just happened to run into the spiders, then perhaps Inakrin was responsible only for the owlbears.
Yes, I concur.
Theophania sits down her empty mug.
But the constable said something was stirring up trouble. Inakrin doesn't need to stir up trouble to send owlbears after us. I think the constable's warning has more to do with the Kruthic. If I had a few days with Inisel in the wilds, we could learn more.
Wouldn't that be dangerous?
Malaysia has a look of horror upon his face.
If I'm not mistaken, my little lizard folk friend here can also change her form into beasts. No?
Theophania smiles broadly.
Yes, I can do that.
NSL sighs deeply.
And if Inakrin is trying to send creatures after us to get Malaysia, we will likely be in very little danger without him.
Thanks, I guess.
Malaysia now seems even more distressed. Case grabs Malaysia's shoulder and gives it a squeeze.
Don't worry, little one. You will be with Fodinus and I when we go see the mindflayer.
Malaysia's face turns from distress to utter horror.
Okay.
After a hearty meal and a few ales, the group retires for the evening, taking a long-deserved rest in the safety of the inn. The following morning emerges clean and bright, as a full night of rest has refreshed the bodies and minds of the party. Inicel and Theophania repack her cart with the supplies they would need and set back off into the forest to learn what they could about the disturbances in the wild. The rest of the party in the wagon set out at first light on the road to the capital. The farms become more and more dense as the group moves further along the road. Many people wave or simply look at them and smile. Seeing travelers is quite common between the town of Pithilius, but normally the caravans are larger and a bit more heavily guarded. To see such a small group come through alive was rare. But the party is on task and focused. Case, Peace, and Malaysia watch the farms with great interest. As they are new to this land, the opportunity to observe something new is welcome. Case had traveled this road to Woodshead, but he had slept hidden the entire journey in the cargo room of a large caravan wagon, not able to see much. Peace had traveled from Canville Port to Woodshead, which was a long, hard road which they'd spent most of the time meditating and writing. Nothing dangerous had happened. Malaysia, next to Fodinus, realizes that he traveled from Cantha to Woodshead with a large caravan through the town of Plandino, but the surrounding farms had lasted less than half a day around it, so it was mostly the wild. Hopefully, Inicel and Theophania could come up with some answers as to why this stretch of road was becoming more dangerous.
Malaysia, when we get to the capital, it might be best to hide your appearance somewhat. I have no doubt that our party together will be easily spotted if Inakron or her people are looking for us, but it's best we not draw too much attention to you in general.
Umgern smiles at the little flickering Genasi.
I think I can make him look less obvious when we get to the next stop.
Fodinus pats the Genasi's shoulder. The journey continues for most of the day until the wagon reaches the second inn, the Timbers. Malaysia waits in the wagon, hidden, while Umgern and Peace talk with the innkeeper. Fodinus vanishes from the wagon. There is at least an hour of light remaining, so Case steps out of the wagon and begins doing some exercise routines that include stretching, flipping, twisting, and weight-bearing moves. Case makes an athletics check and a performance check, rolls an 11 and a 14. The onlookers around the inn, either selling food or wares or moving between farms, stop frequently to watch Case's activities. The movements and strength are almost as interesting as the lion man himself. Malaysia watches from a slit in the wagon's window, giggling. Case receives 12 silver pieces. Meanwhile, Fodinus dashes between two farms, sees a few symbols he's looking for, and ducks into a cellar door on the back of a large farmhouse. Inside, he sees a few seedy characters look up from a game of dice, but a quick flash of gestures on his left hand makes them nod and return to their game.
Hello? What might be on the menu for you this evening?
The deep voice startles Fodinus. Fodinus turns towards the voice and takes a minute step back. The deep, somewhat intimidating sound comes from a small female Yuan-Ti with bright green scaly skin, black eyes, 4 arms, and no legs. Instead, she balances on a muscular tail. She wears a sheer dark purple veil across her chest, which falls nearly to the floor and is secured over her shoulders with a thick gold chain.
Madam?
Fodinus' gender assumption doesn't seem to bother her.
I'm in need of a disguise kit and a poisoner's kit if you have them.
Of course.
She turns quickly to slither soundlessly to a dark corner where a cabinet and a table reside. He follows her and watches as she places the 2 kits on the table.
Anything else?
Yes, in fact, some advice. Say I wanted to have a close encounter with a creature and leave them much less healthy than when I met them, but they are not a typical individual. Would you be one who knows what special ingredient is needed for the task?
Because they are in a rogue's den, Fodinus doesn't bother with the thieves' cant, but remains cautious.
Indeed, that type of knowledge is my specialty, and for your information, my expertise in this area is very well known. You won't find more information even in Pithilia. What manner of person are we speaking of?
She crosses 2 of her arms and places the other 2 on the table.
I believe they are most commonly called mindflayers.
He pauses and looks carefully at her face.
A fearsome foe indeed. I happen to be acquainted with one about whom I would be very distraught should something happen to them.
She glares at him intensely.
My friend is also acquainted with such a creature, but this particular one is, how we say, on the outs with even his own people, I think. A bit of a troublemaker and likely up to something disastrous.
He smiles confidently as best he can.
And is your interest in this particular individual for monetary gain?
She raises her right eye, which, if she had an eyebrow, would have made Fodinus unnerved. As it was, he is still a bit.
No, my lady. There is no contract in this case, and I dare say there likely never will be. It moves in shadow like all of its kind, but far from the eyes of the public. I fear it is aligning itself with similarly dissident voices who also seek a disastrous outcome.
He pauses and makes a stern face to emphasize his concern.
Very well. I don't suggest you focus your efforts on removing problems from this world unless you're getting paid. It's an assured way to shorten your life. As it were, a colleague of that ilk and I have discussed this before because he wanted to procure an antitoxin as he feared for his life. He had come in contact with a poison but not actually been exposed. As such, I know a substance you may need well because he gave me the sample. Unfortunately, it must be ingested, but once eaten, it is almost instantly effective.
She removes a small flask from her cupboard. The liquid inside is very similar in color and appearance to Fodinus' own vial of memories.
What is it exactly, if I may ask?
He picks up the flask and examines it closely.
The poison to kill a mind flayer is simply a mixture of torpor and purple worm poison. Those are easily available, but mind flayers only eat brains, and, as I believe, they will eat this. It is a fascinating substance. It is a complete set of memories, taken from a humanoid, almost impossible to get. Those mind flayers feed on brains and are susceptible to most poisons. The combination is particularly effective if they ingest it. But how do you get poison into someone's brain? You can't. So this liquid memory is the trick.
She smiles.
But it's not cheap.
Oh? How much would you sell a vial of memories for?
He thinks of his own vial in his bag.
I'm afraid I can't sell this for less than 100,000 gold pieces. I know that sounds steep, but as I said, it is nearly impossible to get. I dare say it is the only vial I will ever own.
She frowns a bit, assuming the price has lost her the sale.
Do not misunderstand my asking, my lady, but do you think there are others who might also have this substance available? I do not ask because your price is too high. I am very interested in the supply chain.
Fodinus makes a deception check versus the Yonti's insight check. Rolls 18 versus 8.
The supply chain? I acquired this from my colleague who is interested in it when it was to be used on him. Outside of that, I've never heard of it. My suggestion is that you speak with him, but you must promise not to kill him.
She accentuates her last comment by folding her forearms across her chest, each of which is holding a vicious-looking dagger.
Would he happen to be in Pythilia?
Fodinus relaxes his own arms and lets them fall behind him, a sign of submission.
Yes, he is the head of his hive there, first to serve their elder brain, which resides below the sewers of Pythilia. The entrance to their lair is under the Fairhope Monastery. I know they eat brains, but I've found them to be a peaceful folk.
She also relaxes her arms and the daggers vanish.
Then I think, my lady, I may already be on my way to see him. A friend of mine is not of this world, but found his way here with the help of a mind flayer who now resides in Pythilia. If they are not the same person, I am sure they are acquainted, and I have no harmful intentions against them.
He smiles and bows deeply.
Very well.
She takes the flask of memories back and replaces them in her cupboard.
It's 100 gold pieces for the 2 kits, and for 500 gold pieces more, I can sell you 2 doses of the poison I mentioned. They usually go for more, of course, but I'm feeling generous.
Fodinus gives the Yonti 600 gold pieces and acquires a disguise kit, a poisoner's kit, a dose of torpor, and a dose of purple worm poison.
Pleasure doing business with you, madam.
Fodinus bows and shakes her hand. The grip is very firm and painful.
Likewise, and a word of warning. In the city, our den will be easy for you to find, but my sources tell me there is a crisis at the moment. I don't understand the nature of it, but choose your contracts, should that be your forte, carefully. The motivations these days are more sinister and evil than what I have a taste for.
She slithers away from Fodinus across the room. As she approaches the bar, she gives a busty young woman in dark leathers a long, deep kiss. Within a few moments, she has moved to the dice table and has all 4 of her arms in a seductive embrace around a large, burly human. Fodinas smirks a bit at himself, gathers his items, and exits. Fodinas returns to the wagon to find Milage waiting inside and Case outside talking to several people, including a few men and women who are feeling his muscles and stroking his fur. Fodinas laughs out loud.
I think I should be able to sort you.
He opens the disguise kit, peruses it for a few moments, and then begins pulling together an inconspicuous look for Milage.
Fodinas makes a tool check, not proficient, rolls 16.
Milage and Fodinas emerge from the wagon and walk over to Case.
Fodinas, what lovely people here. And who's your friend?
Case smiles down cluelessly at Milage.
Okay, so that works.
The three join Peace and Umgurn inside as a small boy takes the reins of their horses and moves them towards a large barn behind the inn. Fodinas chucks him a gold piece.
Fodinas gives away 1 gold piece.
Inside, they find Umgurn and Peace at a large table waving them over.
Excellent work, Fodinas.
Umgurn looks at Milage with admiration.
Oh,
Peace smiles, points at Milage, and giggles. Case still seems oblivious.
Are we going to leave Milage in the wagon all night?
Case looks around. Milage tugs on his arm, points at his face, and the flames flicker in his eyes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Case sits up and looks a little embarrassed.
Tomorrow at midday, we will make it to the city gates. I will head with Peace directly to the king's court, and will send word I am coming when we enter the city. I would suggest that the three of you make your exit then, and deal with your Drabask business. The Salted Pig is an inn a few streets outside of the castle to the south. We will meet there at dusk. Any questions?
Umgurn picks up a mug of milk and begins swallowing it. Case suddenly looks concerned.
Well, I know Drabask is likely here, but I don't know how to find him. I'm not sure we can do so in an afternoon.
Fodinas smiles and pats him firmly on the back.
I think we can. I've come into some information about the mindflayers that reside under Pythilia and where the entrance to their dwelling is. I'll make some inquiries, but we should be able to find it quickly.
Case looks flabbergasted, but smiles broadly. Fodinas, Case, and Milage walk casually down a wide street with buildings of several stories on both sides. It is midday, and Isvara is shining brightly in a cloudless sky. The Fairhope Monastery comes into view on the north side of the street, just as Fodinas' contact had assured him it would. They pause next to it, beside the alley running down its side, and wait while a few passerbys move on. Fodinas nods, and all three of them duck down the alley and move to the back of the building. There are 3 doors, one of which is painted a dark black color, and they go through it. Inside, the room is dark, and Milage produces a flame in his hand to guide their way.
Case, Fodinas, and Milage make investigation checks, DC 16. Roll 18, 15, and 9.
On the far wall, barely noticeable except when the flames flicker, there is an indentation in the smooth stone. Case looks at it carefully and removes his emblem given to him by Drabask. It lines up perfectly with the wall space. He takes a few seconds to align it and then presses it firmly. The floor in the middle of the room opens up and a long, dark shaft becomes visible. Milage leans over the edge and then looks at Fodinas and Case with concern. He tosses the flame in his hand down the shaft, and they watch it fall down the smooth stone walls for a very long time before it winks out.
How are we supposed to get down that?
Milage reproduces the flame in his hand and looks at his companions.
Case makes an intelligence check, DC 10, rolls 12. We are not.
Case takes Milage's wrist gently and walks with him around the outside of the hole, studying the floor. He suddenly smiles in the darkness.
Here.
He places the emblem on the floor in a similar indentation, orients it, and presses. A sudden drop of stones about 1 foot from the edge of the hole rings out and continues to drop, trailing off far below them. They move over to the first area and see that the stones have fallen to make a 2-foot wide stairwell going down, which seems to follow the large shaft down below.
Mindflayers can levitate, apparently. That's what Drabask told me anyway. So that is their entrance, and this must be for anyone else?
He smiles, gestures for Milage to lead the way, and begins descending the stairs behind him with Fodinas in the rear. After what seems like hours, they come to a flat landing that ends in another black door. The same indentation is where a doorknob would be, and Case places the emblem there. The door opens into a large room with a vaulted ceiling, and a purple-blue magical flame illuminates it from the suspended lanterns. The walls are stone, smooth, and highly polished with many doors. The center of the room has an elaborate design on the floor.
Malaysia makes an investigation check. DC 20. Rolls 26. Natural 20.
Wow, look at the floor. It's like a map of stars and planets and Isvara.
He walks around, pointing and commenting, while Fodinas and Case watch the doors for any sign of movement. From the darkness appears, as if it were made of shadow, a mindflayer who walks patiently over to Malaise. Fodinas and Case quickly join him.
You have found your way into this chamber, which means you have permission to be here, or you were sent here as food? Which is it?
The alien, warbling voice of the mindflayer is more clear in their mind than in their ears. Case holds up his emblem, bows as best he can, and steps forward.
I am an acquaintance of Drabask. I am in desperate need of his help.
Case bows again. Fodinas grimaces a bit in the dark, concerned that Case's admission of their need would be interpreted as weakness and give the mindflayers leverage.
Drabask.
The mindflayer takes the emblem from Case, studies it for a moment, and then returns it.
You are the man-lion that assisted him with his escape from the Luctus, yes?
Case nods and bows again.
This is a most delightful meeting. Have you brought these two as a peace offering of food? No. I am Case Amberdream of Theros, friend of Drabask. This is Fodinas Oradirk, bugbear of Pithilius, victim of a memory-stealing mindflayer. And this is Malaysia Ermdal, Genasi from the elemental plane of fire, pyrogenius.
All three of them bow deeply to the mindflayer.
I am Golbil, master of security for our enclave. Let me show you to Drabask and the other two members of our Elder Concord who serve our Elder Brain, Singabur.
Golbil moves towards one of the closed doors, which opens at its approach. It leads them down a long hallway, down a flight of shiny black stairs, and finally to a chamber with yet another black door. The door opens as it approaches. Fodinas, Case, and Malaysia can see inside the room, which is smaller but similar to the large vaulted room, except that instead of doors, the walls are covered in shelves of books. There is a table in the center with 3 chairs, occupied by 3 other mindflayers, along with several empty chairs. As Golbil enters the room and moves to the side to bow and point at the party, the 3 mindflayers stand, bow to Golbil, and then look at the group. Golbil leaves and the door closes behind him.
Case, is that you?
The mindflayer quickly moves from behind the desk, approaches Case hurriedly, and embraces him. Its 4 tentacles wrap and twist around Case's head and neck gently.
It is very good to see you, man-lion.
The other 2 mindflayers moved forward to stand next to Drabask. One reaches out with a hand to stroke Case's head, and the other allows its tentacles to caress Case's ear gently.
And who are these 2? I am sure they are not offers of food.
The 3 mindflayers make a strange warbling noise that might be laughter. Case smiles and repeats his introduction. Drabask bows to both of them and steps back, pointing its hand at each of the other 2 mindflayers.
This is Ruafem, Master Librarian, and this is Tazgam, Senior Strategist. We are the Elder Concord of our colony, but please explain your words, Case. Fodinas is the victim of a memory-stealing mindflayer. Yes, that is why we are here.
Case steps back and allows Fodinas to move closer to them. Fodinas pulls the vial of memories from his pocket and shows it to them. All 3 illithids recoil in horror and then regain their composure. Tazgam steps closer to Fodinas.
If you will permit me, bugbear.
Fodinas nods. Tazgam places its hands on Fodinas' shoulders, and its tentacles wrap and undulate gently around Fodinas' head. In his mind, Fodinas feels and sees the last year of his life, beginning with the awakening in the manor house. After a few moments, Tazgam ceases the mind probing and the mind share.
We are all now aware of your story, Fodinas. You need not recount it in detail. And we are pleased to know that you have met the Mistress Solsta, who showed you the tainted sample of extracted memories.
Tazgam returns to the others, who all seem to be frowning with their eyes. Case and Malaysia look at each other confused, and then at Fodinas.
A long story, but essentially, someone tried to poison one of these mind flayers with a tainted vial of memories, and the vial ended up with the Yanti, with whom I'm acquainted. So what do you know about the mind flayer who did this to me?
Fodinas stands with his hands on his short sword hilts and his shoulders cocked to the side.
Varkadar. If mind flayers cared anything about our past or our history, there might be a book written about Varkadar. As it were, he is a problem now, so we are all too familiar with him.
Drabask's head dips slightly as if ashamed. Malaysia steps forward, lightly grasping Drabask's hand and smiling sadly.
Excuse me, Trabask, but you said him. I understand you're going to be without gender or sexless. I hope that's not offensive.
You are indeed a clever child, Malaysia. Let me impart some of our biology to you so that Varkadar's existence becomes clear. Illithids are indeed sexless, and ever so often we lay a clutch of eggs. Most tadpoles that hatch are consumed by the elder brain, but occasionally, when a suitable humanoid host is available, one of exceptional intellect and promise, we subject them to seromorphosis. The tadpole is allowed to burrow into the new host, and in time, they become a new mind flayer. I can tell you, Malaysia, you would make an excellent mind flayer.
Drabask smiles genuinely, but Malaysia drops his hand and returns to Case's side nervously.
Adrefius of the Agmon was a brilliant wizard of incredible power and prowess. We should have been concerned when he came to us requesting to be made a mind flayer. It is not unheard of, especially for thralls who have seen our power, to ask to be made into our kind, but Adrefius was a bit unique. He accepted the tadpole and over several months was transformed into a mind flayer. Where seromorphosis is complete, the mind of the new mind flayer may contain a few memories of the old self, personality, some abilities, but Adrefius was himself. He retained all of his memories and his power. The elder brain was very concerned and insisted on seeing Adrefius to inspect him. Under the intense mental stress of the elder brain's interrogation, the guise of Adrefius finally broke. He was not a wizard. He was not even Adrefius, only inhabited Adrefius's body. You see, he was a demon possessing Adrefius, who was a warlock, and Varkadar, the demon, was his patron. At some point, Varkadar had subsumed Adrefius' soul and made the transition to this plane to inhabit his body entirely. Unlike the transformation of the undead, however, Adrefius was seemingly unchanged, and in the demon sought to change his physical form into that of a mind flayer to obtain our natural psionic powers in addition to his own magical abilities.
Drabask pauses and returns to its chair to sit.
But why would a demon want to possess a mind flayer?
Case sits in a chair across from Drabask.
Isn't it obvious?
Malaysia takes the chair next to Case.
He must be in league with Centerlphus.
Truly brilliant, this little one, and at the age of only 14 is Varana.
Drabask and the others nod in unison.
Theophania, our friend, told us about Centerlphus and how it's full of evil and darkness. A demon who wants to be a mind flayer sounds like exactly the type of thing you'd expect from them.
Drabask continues to nod.
Yes, Varkadar seeks to supplant the very power structures of this world in service to the darkness that rules Centernalfuse. Magic is powerful, but control of the mind, as we have achieved, is both powerful and subtle. With finely coordinated mind control, Varkadar can topple kingdoms.
Fodinas also takes a seat.
But what does that have to do with me and my memories?
Tazgam perks up and places its hands on the table carefully.
Everything, we're afraid. When we consume a brain, we benefit from the physical nutrients and the psionic energy, but no matter how we consume a brain, we can only retain a few memories or traits from the source, and only at random. Varkadar seeks a way to capture every memory, every secret of a victim. His extraction process that he used on you, Fodinus, was an experiment. He could not predict what would happen if he tried to consume every living memory of a being, so he experimented on lesser beings. You see, he was not immediately rejected from our colony when we discovered his demonic nature. Our elder brain was in fact fascinated by Varkadar's theories about complete memory extraction. So, for a time, he was here. He experimented on rats, spiders, chickens, dogs, any creature he thought might have some but not too much brain to deal with. And he did these experiments in secret, saying he wanted to impress us with real progress. But he reached the limits of his power with psionic abilities and needed to combine magic to achieve his process. We mindflayers loathe magic, as it is an immature and destructive use of nature. The elder brain banished Varkadar, and we lost track of him. Then, a rumor came to us of a mindflayer aligned with the Drow. The elder Concord sent us with 4 thralls to find him. We offered a diplomatic greeting, and the thralls as a gift for his nutrition or his experiments. He allowed us to observe his progress, and performed a complete extraction on one of the thralls. We were able to verify that the memory of the host had been completely erased and that the vial contained millions upon millions of memories. He even offered the vial to us as a gift and proof of his progress. We took the vial and insisted he feast on the remaining 3 thralls to honor him. He did not know that we had tainted one of the thralls by injecting its blood with the water blessed by the priests of this monastery. Although the flesh was mindflayer, the soul was a demon, and the holy water damaged him severely. While he was incapacitated, we destroyed his laboratory and burned his books and notes and escaped with the sample.
Is that the sample that Solsta has?
Fodinus removes one of his daggers and begins twirling it and balancing it on his finger.
No. The sample we obtained from the thrall was studied by us extensively. We learned a great deal about the vial of memories. For example, we could experience them without consuming them. We could also remove them by consuming them one at a time or by separating them into different vials. But eventually, it was exhausted. That is why the second sample was so dangerous. We had learned a great deal, but not enough to know how to stop Varkadar or what he was planning. When the sample arrived in the hands of a criminal who told us he had stolen it and heard we might be interested, we assumed he was looking for profit. But Ruafim may be the most clever of us. Rather than paying the thief and letting him leave, Ruafim blasted him with his psionic force and consumed his brain. Through that, we learned that the thief was sent to us directly by Varkadar and that the vial was poisoned. That is when we entreated Mistress Solsta to evaluate the sample, but also keep it far away from us. Only the 3 of us know that Varkadar succeeded. We have kept his success from the elder brain and our colony for fear that they might seek him out for these liquid memories.
Drabask picks up a piece of parchment and places it inside of a book.
It's addictive, isn't it?
Malaysia sits forward in his chair with his hands on the desk. All 3 of the mindflayers seem to slightly reel at the thought of it.
If consuming a brain is the ultimate feeling for an illithid, 1 sip of the liquid memory was that feeling multiplied times 10,000. Our experimentation ended because we ultimately had consumed all of the memory. It would sustain us for months without needing new nourishment, and the euphoria was indescribable. But we saw the danger in it. A tainted poison vial of memory in the hands of the colony with full knowledge of its power would have wiped us out completely, so we sent it away where it remained safe.
She did offer to sell it to me for 100,000 gold pieces.
Fodinus smirks and Case and Malaysia's jaws drop.
A pittance for what it is worth. Fodinus, if we did not have the better of ourselves in mind, we would offer you 50,000 platinum pieces for your vial of memories.
Tazgam puts its hands onto its tentacles and drops its head with embarrassment.
As it were, Fodinus, we will not buy your memories from you at any price, but we do wish to help you. Although extracting a creature's mind is difficult, replacing a liquid memory is not that difficult at all. But you do have to make a choice.
Ruafim taps its 4 fingers on each hand together patiently.
What choice?
Fodinus leans forward, listening intently.
That vial holds 20 years of memories about which you have no knowledge. Were you a slave? Were you an orphan? Did you starve and suffer in squalor? Were you the child of a king? Did you sleep in a golden bed? Do you wish to have 20 years of memories back without having the measure of them? Or would you prefer that we examine your memories very carefully?
Drabask's tentacles seem to quiver nervously.
And what? You'll tell me about my memories?
Fodinus frowns.
We, in fact, can edit your memories. We can remove any hardship or suffering and leave only the positive and the pleasure. We would be happy to do that for you.
Tazgam thrums its fingers on the desk. Malaysia sits forward again.
Wait. You can read them, and you can edit them. But you cannot add to them, can you?
Drabask's eyes smile and its tentacles flutter happily.
You are truly a clever one. Nor can Varkadar. That is his ultimate goal, we think. He wants to remove someone's memory, change it, implant it with secret instructions to ensure 100% loyalty, and then return the memory to them. Think what would happen if the king of Pathilius was reprogrammed to allow the forces of Salternalfuse to secretly replace all leadership. It is quiet and subtle, but highly effective. But we are certain he has not mastered the reentry of manufactured memories or changes to a subject's ideals or morals.
Drabask sits back in its chair and lightly strokes its tentacles.
How can you be sure?
Fodinus folds his arms and places his hands on his chin.
We have inserted an informant into Varkadar's ranks. He trusts her implicitly, and she reports to us regularly. Of course, she is nearly as dangerous as he is, but she doesn't believe in quiet takeovers. She is intent on burning Pathilia to the ground simply to distract the people of this nation away from Centernalfuse so she can be at the forefront of their invasion.
Tazgam pounds a fist on the table in frustration.
Inacrin Tilpira.
Malaysia sighs deeply and puts his hands over his face.
Of course.
Case pats Malaysia on the shoulder.
We are aware of her intentions and her desire for your heart, little one. If Fodinus meets up with the rogues and assassins of this city, we are sure you will find a contract on this little Genasi's life for a high reward. By now, with her anger unchecked, there may be contracts for all of you. We cannot interfere with her activities in order to keep our information flowing.
Ruafin folds its hands across its lap, and its tentacles settle into a soft sag.
She is not a willing spy, is she?
Malaysia's eyes grow wide, and he leans close to the desk.
A nerve swimmer was implanted in her brain without her knowledge. Normally, they are useful for torture, but we have attuned this one to telepathically communicate with us from any distance. We know her every move, her every conversation, and Varkadar, being a demon and her patron, is always in contact with her. If he succeeds in reimplantation, we will know immediately.
Tazgam seems very pleased with this information, and its tentacles undulate wildly. Malaysia looks at Case, and then at Fodinus.
So, we cannot harm the Druid warlock that wants to kill me.
Not until we have destroyed Varkadar. And trust me, I am perfectly happy to attempt that.
Fodinus brandishes both of his daggers and stabs them into the table.
We have spoken too long, and Ruafilm's ability to shield the Elder Concord from the Elder Brain is waning. It is best you leave now, but before you go, we have gifts for you. We want you to succeed in your quest to destroy Varkadar. Ruafilm, please converse with Malaysia. Fodinus, please come with me.
Drabask rises and walks to a bookshelf, which dissolves. Fodinus follows him. Tazgam moves close to Case, whispers, and leads him to another bookcase, which opens and Case follows. Ruafim pulls a necklace from a pocket in its robes, which looks like a thin gold chain with 9 red baubles hanging from it. It places it on the table in front of Malaysia.
This necklace belonged to our brother. Before we were Illithid, we were human, and our brother was our twin. When a human who has an identical twin becomes an Illithid, the bond of the twins cannot be broken. We often visited our brother, who was a member of one of the wizard towers of the north. Our brother was a magnificent wizard of the highest degree, extremely skilled, and terribly kind and generous. Even when we were transformed, we remained close. On our last visit to see him, we were spotted by the tower enforcers, and they burst into our brother's room. Without a word, they fired multiple crossbow bolts at us, but our brother leaped in front of them. A bolt struck him in the heart. We blasted the guards in anger, and then we sucked on their brains, one after the other. Our brother still breathed, but he would die soon. He begged us to consume his brain so that we would always be together. We agreed, and the remnants of our humanness found us crying tears of immense sadness even as his memories joined with our own. Our brother had a great library in his private study, filled with his notes, journals, spells, and knowledge. We could not let the tower corrupt it. Using a clever manuscript of the Narvandar that our brother had given us, called a Book of Books, we gathered all of the text in his room. And then we removed this necklace from his neck and used 2 of the baubles to ignite the room in a blaze of fire that consumed the bodies and all evidence of our presence. We have kept this for sentimental reasons, as we do not use your magic, but you are a special one, a pyro genius, and you are being hunted by dark forces. So to you, we bestow this necklace for your protection.
Malaysia receives a necklace of fireballs with 9 baubles.
You are too kind, Ruafem, and I will use it well. But, please, tell me, what is this book of books?
Malaysia puts the necklace on and hides it within his shirt. Ruafem's tentacles undulate with excitement. It pulls a book from within its robes and places it on the table in front of Malaysia. Malaysia opens the cover and sees, on the first page, the cover of another book. He flips that page and sees the cover of another book. He looks up confused.
The Book of Books can hold as many as 500 tomes of any size, possibly more. One simply opens the book to any page and places another book one rightfully owns against the pages, and it is absorbed. When you open the Book of Books, the pages are the covers of each book. If you want to read one or use that book, one simply runs one's finger down the cover like so, and then all the pages of that book appear. When the book is closed, it reverts to its pages of covers. This book contains all of our brother's books, plus a few dozen other books that we frequently use.
Ruafem seems almost giddy as its hands lightly bounce together.
That's a wonderful tribute to your brother, Ruafem.
Malaysia smiles, and Ruafem's tentacles lightly touch his head and ears gently. Fodinas follows Drabask for a few minutes, and then they turn into a room where many thralls are working on various projects and equipment. Tables are filled with vials of bubbling liquid, and there are large machines that buzz and hum from some unknown magical source. 2 thralls sit atop a stool and seem to be running in place with their feet on pedals that are connected to the machines. Sparks and flashes are everywhere.
Your daggers, Fodinas. We know that you earned them in the manor house when you escaped Varkadar, and we can see that you've had them enhanced with magic to be more effective, but the handles you are using are still rough-hewn leather, and the hilt is not balanced as it should. If you will permit us, we wish to improve these daggers for you. They will remain as you earned them, but we can make them better.
Fodinas looks sideways at Drabask, shrugs, and hands over the daggers. Drabask takes them over to several thralls who are working with various metals and gems on several different projects. Drabask returns to Fodinas.
While we wait, please tell us your decision. Do you want us to return your memories directly, or do you want us to clean your memories before you return them?
Drabask holds out its hand, and Fodinas retrieves the vial of memories and gives it to it.
I'm not sure.
Fodinas frowns and looks off in the distance.
Permit us to assist you.
Drabask moves the vial close to its face, and its tentacles wrap around it while its hands undulate around the mass of tentacles and vials. Its eyes seem to roll back into its head. After many minutes, Drabask seems to return to itself and takes the vial in one hand.
Our suggestion would be to separate your memories into 2 vials. The one vial that we wish to return to you that will make you a whole person again, and the other vial which you should agree to sell us for 25,000 gold pieces. If you remember from our earlier discussion, the entire vial would be worth a fortune to us. However, the few memories we believe you do not need are worth significantly less. But still, that may be a great deal of money to you. What is your answer?
Drabask holds the vial close to its chest, suggesting that Fodinas simply leaving with the vial is probably not an option.
You are vastly wiser than I, Drabask. You are also masters of mind control and manipulation. That being said, I currently love my life and would prefer to have no regrets. If you can clean my memories so that I am returned only that which will make me whole, while removing those things that would cause me grief, I would be indebted to you. But I will also take 25,000 gold pieces.
Fodinas smiles, and Drabask releases the alien, otherworldly warble that Fodinas assumes is laughter.
Your daggers, sir.
A goblin thrall hands the daggers to Fodinas. The blades appear to be unchanged, but the hilts are now made of some sort of firm, white, shiny material, are inlaid at the hilt and the knob with a row of emeralds. The knob itself is a perfect sphere, and the dagger feels incredibly balanced. Fodinas hurls both across the room and sticks them a few inches from each other in a door. He smiles and turns to Drabask.
We have seen your heart, Fodinas. We know that your talents lie in the quick dispatching of those whom you would target. Bright, steely blades might betray you. Thus, we have imbued these blades with one additional feature in addition to their remarkable craftsmanship and balance. If you speak the word Gwath, these blades and the handles will go as black as night until you say Kalina. Then they will return to normal. Although we loathe magic, it doesn't mean we cannot find some uses for it.
Drabask's tentacles lightly fondle Fodinas' shoulder.
That's incredible. Thank you.
We are happy to help you. Your memories, however, will take us at least one moon turn to complete the separation. We hope that will not take any longer.
Drabask bows and begins walking back towards the Elder Concord room with the vial of memories hidden somewhere in its robes. Case follows Tazgam down a long corridor and into a room filled with thralls that are training with various weapons and using various devices. Tazgam moves over to several thralls that are sitting in a circle on the floor with their legs crossed and their hands on their knees. A gentle low hum seems to reverberate from their throats.
They are practicing the art of Kai Tho, a form of body strengthening using the mind that we were able to perfect in the thralls. We sense that you have a friend very much like you that practices a similar art, Shijin Ki. Our bodies do not benefit from such training, where your body can easily. The teachings of Kai Tho take months to years for our thralls to master, but when they do, they are incredibly strong and able to defend themselves and our colony with deadly force. We have seen that you are an unarmed fighter who prefers your fists to a weapon. Your longsword and spear, though magical, were chosen by you because they allow you to fight unarmed. To that end, your strength is your most important attribute, and you are very strong. But Kai Tho will make you stronger. For you, we wish to impart psionically all of the teachings of Kai Tho. It will be mentally painful, but we do not have the time to train you properly.
Tazgam places its hands on either side of Case's head, and its tentacles surround Case's eyes and ears. The Mind Flayer begins to hum a guttural song of complex intonation, and Case's vision goes black. He can feel his body training, his muscles reacting, and his energy draining and refilling. After 20 minutes, Tazgam stops and disengages from Case. Tazgam is leaking a profuse liquid from its eyes, tentacles, and mouth. Its color has gone from a dark purple to a pale gray. It sits down for a moment to rest. A thrall runs over to Tazgam and hands it a bat. Tazgam tears through the head and ingests the brain in seconds. Its color returns and the leaking stops.
You will now be compelled to exercise in specific ways and follow a specific diet. The results will be improved strength in a short time. Case will gain a +1 improvement to strength the next time he levels, and every 4th levels after, 6th, 10th, 14th, and 18th, to a maximum of 24 strength.
Case smiles at the Mind Flayer.
Thank you for this gift, Tazgam. I am indebted to you.
They return to the Elder courtroom. Malayj and Ruafim are sitting quietly looking at a book, and Fodinas and Drabask have returned and are seated on the other side of the table. When Case walks in, Fodinas stands up.
Then it is time we are off.
Malayj, you are welcome to return any time to speak with us and use our library. You are the most unusual intellect among the surface dwellers.
Thanks.
Malayj smiles half-heartedly. Malayj and Case quickly stand and begin the pleasantries of shaking the Mind Flayer's hands one at a time. As if on cue, Golbul appears and waves its hand to indicate they should follow. Less than half an hour later, they completed the climb to the top of the stairs and exit the monastery. In complete silence, they make their way towards the inn of Umgurn's instructions.
Fodinas and Malayj have reached 3rd level. Fodinas chooses Assassin Roguish Archetype. Malayj chooses Artillerist Artificer Specialist. Malayj replaces Enhanced Defense with Replicate Magic Item Chest of Preserving.
Thank you for visiting Engedrian. Don't forget to find us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for additional content, battle maps, and background details. We hope you're enjoying our adventure. We can't wait to hear what happens next.